Yo, what's good, Knicks Nation? Welcome back to another Game of the Week preview. Of course, we got to keep this train rolling. Knicks are up 2-0 in the series against the Philadelphia 76ers as John's shaking his head. You already know what it is. Hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Subscribe to the channel if you have already done so, and make sure to support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to a $100 match. With me on the other side is it's my friend. Been on the show before. We covered the Sixers in Knicks series early during the regular season. My guy John Gonzalez. If you all don't know, he works with who was on the show last night, Ashley Nicole Moss. You can find him over at CBS Sports Radio. John, how are you doing today, my man? How you feeling?
Alex, great to see you. I wish the circumstances were different. I, as you mentioned, work at CBS Sports Network with Ashley Nicole Moss. And I was thinking to myself, you know what? I don't get dunked on enough during my day job by Knicks fans. So let me come on here with you.
Yeah, there you go. See, and now look, you get to, you should be ready for this because as we discussed earlier during the season, you're like, Philly just doesn't surprise me with how they could collapse. So, we're here, we're going to discuss the 76ers. But before we, I guess, go into like previewing game 3,
Right.
what are your thoughts after game 2 and on the series as a whole?
Series as a whole has been really good, tight, really closely contested, some great games, kind of what I expected. I thought it was going to be a battle. If you had told me that Jalen Brunson would be like super ineffective and inefficient and would only make like, I think he was 8 of 22 and 8 of 26, something like that. You had told me that before the series started, I would 1000% think the Sixers would get at least one of those games. But ultimately, my opinion of the whole game 2 fiasco is kind of what Maxey said. Two things can be true at the same time. He got his jersey held, pretty obvious, should have been a foul, but also like the refereeing, you can't rely on the refereeing. You got to go win that game. They had a lot of different ways to win the game. Knicks closed it out. They've closed out their last 3 games in really impressive fashion, going back to that Bulls game in the final regular season game to get the 2 seed. They're up 2-0. What can you do? Keep it pushing.
Yeah, but like I don't even look at it. And I know there's been a lot of discourse about the foul and like Max getting fouled and stuff of that nature. I mean, the way I look at it too is that there was a questionable call with that call being overturned by Lowry. And I'm like, at the end of the day, whether or not you ask for refs to make calls or so forth, in the last 2 minutes of the game, I've been asking, let it play out. Let's see what happens unless it's so clear and obvious. But at the end of the day, and so with that being said, like, was it clear and obvious in the moment? I don't think it was that clear and obvious that he was getting fouled because we can even go back beforehand where you see Maxey just shove Josh Hart. So at the end
Yep.
of the day, it's like they're letting it play, they're letting the game unfold, they're letting it happen. What it really comes down to is rebounding, and Knicks are just been out rebounding the Sixers in this matchup. Even the last game where it was by 2, that has really been the deciding factor in these games. So I don't really like, I know there's been a whole lot of discourse about fouls, and I feel like there's certain games throughout the regular season where we can go towards that. Like, I look at that Rockets Knicks game during the regular season where it was the one on Brunson where I forget who was on.
Yeah, he got trucked.
Yeah, well, not Brunson, but it was like the call was against Brunson. I forget who it was. It was it's not Grant. It's one of the other brothers that's out there. But you
Thompson.
know, I'm sorry.
Was it Amon Thompson?
No, it wasn't Ahmed Thompson, but it was during that Knicks Rockets game. They were down in Houston, and it's like it was clearly not a foul. So what are we talking? What are we talking about here? That's where I see the game being altered because it could have gone into OT, but they decided to end it right there.
Well,
Um,
that kind of brings up, I mean, this is a different discussion, but quite clearly post All-Star break, the refereeing has changed. The officiating has changed. They way overcorrected because at the beginning of the season, people were putting up 60 and 70 every other night. And NBA fans that are like a little bit older were like, nobody plays defense anymore. And does the NBA have a scoring problem? And then the NBA went, all right, let's adjust the officiating. We're not going to call as many fouls. We're going to have them swallow their whistles. And now, and this is to Maxie's point too, like, you know, it's been a more physical kind of game and you have to kind of plan for that now. You may or may not like it, but that's the way that they are officiating it now after the All-Star break. And people should know that by now. And to your point, the free throw disparity was +1 Knicks. It's not like the Knicks shot a ton more free throws than the Sixers, and the Sixers missed a bunch that were important. Kyle Lowry missed two down the stretch that were important.
Right.
Embiid, who is normally super reliable from the line, he missed a couple. You make your free throws, you end up winning that game in a different way. So, these things happen.
For sure. And that's why I come down to like the end of the like when it comes down to the foul call, like missed calls and so forth, the 2 minute report, which honestly, I don't even need the 2 minute report as somebody who's been on the wrong side as a Knicks fan for a couple of games this season where, oh, we missed this, we missed that. It doesn't do anything but just incite the fan base. And maybe that's what the NBA wants is just to incite the fan base. But if we're going to talk about the 2 minute report, could we go throughout all 48 minutes and say what was missed, what was not missed? And then I think that would give a more clear picture, as Tom Thibodeau said, of like all the calls that have been missed, made, and so forth. So I don't know, man. I'm like as a Knicks fan, I know it's easier for me to say I'm past that because we're up 2-0 in the series, but I totally understand why Sixers fans are a little frustrated. But at the end of the day, look, you talk about Lowry making some free throws and Embiid making
Yeah,
free throws, you're getting some rebounds. You can't let a game be decided by the refs. We always say that on the show. You can't let a game be decided on the refs. So
for
on to the
sure.
next one, right? On
On
to
to the
the
next
next
one.
one. Salute to Knicks Nation. Thank you all for tuning in for another Game of the Week preview. With me on the other side is my guy, John Gonzalez. You can go over and find him over at CBS Sports Radio, where he covers the NBA with, you know who it is, Ashley Nicole Moss, who was here last night. If you haven't catched that roundtable, make sure to go check on that roundtable. Great panel. Jake Asman. You had JD, Ashley Nicole Moss, and you also had George from Into the Knicks Verse. So make sure to go check that out if you haven't already done so. Let's keep this thing rolling. So, John, we talk about the foul discrepancy, all that, but let's talk about the players in general. I mean, you had a stellar performance from Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid in these first two games, and yet the Knicks are still able to go up 2-0. Is there any confidence from a Sixers fan standpoint that things can change? Because, look, you got DeAnthony Melton, who's been upgraded to questionable for tomorrow. Is his addition and anything else on that side give you confidence that the Knicks or the Sixers can take one or maybe two games in Philly?
I don't ever think I've used the word confidence in the same sentence as the Sixers. So I'm going to put that aside. Yeah, Melton helps. Melton's a really good player, but he's also dealing with an injury where he came back from it and then they had to shut him down immediately again. So I wonder how many minutes he's going to be able to go. I seriously doubt he's going to be able to start and go a full, 30, 35, something like that. You mentioned Embiid and Maxey, and yeah, like despite the fact that Embiid is hobbled, those two guys have been really good. The problem is that the Knicks are up 2-0 without Jalen Brunson shooting very well. And like I think the Sixers probably on paper have the best and third best player in the series. You put Brunson at 2, right? After that, the Knicks probably have the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth best players in the series. They're so much deeper, right? I mean, like OG, Josh Hart all of a sudden can't miss a three-pointer. Dante DiVincenzo has had an awesome season since being being asked to step up. Then you've got both big guys. Then throw in Deuce McBride, who like steps into the Emmanuel Quickly role and like just goes supernova. The Knicks are infinitely deeper after you get past Embiid and Maxey. It's like all the best players that you'd want on your team play for the Knicks.
Hmm. And I appreciate the good nature of you saying that to us as at
I
Knicks
talk about
Nation over here.
basketball for a living, man. I mean, like it is what it is.
I'm glad that you're keeping it a buck because some people don't want to keep it a buck, but but hey, look, I think the thing though is that they are role players, and I'll say this, like they are role players. We do need Brunson to get back on track because you can only rely on role players so much, and they always do better at home than typically on the road. Does that mean they can't perform well on the road? No, we've seen that in the past. I mean, this season we still had Josh Hart and McBride go into
Josh
Philly,
Hart's been
and
awesome, man.
yeah, he's been fantastic, man. I mean, he's a double the numbers that he's putting up. You would think that he's like Kevin
Ridiculous.
Garnett almost, like in his prime, because for what he's doing, getting as a shooting guard, it's like, wait, he's getting double doubles, not just like 10 rebounds, like 14 boards with 20
Yeah.
points. It's like prime KG type numbers, which is just insane to even be saying out loud.
He's a
Um,
he's a monster. I like every trade deadline until this past one, and he actually even talked about it at this past trade deadline. Every trade deadline, he's been rumored to be on the move because teams want him. And then the Knicks landed him, and they're like, "Oh man, what a treasure this guy is!" And like when OG and Julius went out, and you having to move Dante and Josh Hart into the starting lineup, they really hit on something there because
mhm.
Julius comes back eventually next season. You're gonna have to move one of those guys to the bench My guess is Dante DiVincenzo. But either way, you've got such depth there and like automatic offense with those guys once they come in.
Yeah, for sure. And the way that this team has just been rolling right now, even without Randall, like it's just because everything's just been focused on Brunson so far without having another guy that you have to honor with a double team or even triple team. Like leaving Josh Hart open, who has been more confident in his shot, as we talked about, like that's just been that's been the key to the success so far. I mean, thankfully Dante came through as well, but getting back to what I was saying, like you need Brunson to show up at some point. We need him in game 3 because now you're talking about being on the road. You're going to be going against Embiid and Maxey, who've just been stellar. And if they can do that at MSG, I like how can they not do that at home on their own home court? And then you talk about role players always thriving when they're home. Like stars got to be stars, which means they got to be able to perform anywhere. And then your role players typically perform best at home. But Brunson, man, like it's just been tough watching him. And it's like I'm not ultra concerned, but my antennas are a little raised because it's 2 games in a row where you've had Oubre just doing a good job defensively on him.
Yeah, I mean, in his defense, they're blitzing and trapping the hell out of him. I mean, and in this season, if you go back and look at the regular season games too, the Knicks had the Sixers number in 3 out of 4, but Brunson's numbers were down about 6 points in the games against the Sixers because they just decided and have decided in the playoffs as well that you're going to need to beat the Sixers with your other guys. And so far, that's worked for the Knicks. Like they've just decided they're gonna trap him, they're gonna blitz him, they're gonna throw 2 and 3 guys at him, and then they're going to force Josh Hart and Dante to beat them. And like so far, Dante and Josh have been up to that challenge. So if Jalen gets untracked, that makes it even more difficult for the Sixers. But I don't think it's a Jalen Brunson's playing badly. I think it's
Mhm.
just that the Sixers are throwing everything they can at him.
For sure. And the thing is, like, he's still getting into his spots too,
Mhm.
right? Like, he's getting to his spots. It's not that the Sixers are necessarily like stopping him, like just from like even getting a good look off. It's that they're very well contested shots. And then at the same
Yes.
time, for Brunson, they're also falling short. And I wonder if it's just like I wonder what's the middle ground between it, right? Is it because it's good defense and we've seen him play against teams that have a lot of wingspan, right?
Yep.
And we've still seen success during the regular season. I don't know if it's just like mentally, if he's thinking that he has to do more because it's the playoffs and that he's carrying that burden because there's no Julius Randle, or if it's actually the defense is just good enough and, you know, he's had to play over 70 games this season, had to really help carry this team, and now we're starting to see like parts throughout the season where there's a little bit of fatigue. I wonder which part of that is actually contributing to his
I
to his shortcomings right now.
I think a little bit of both. I mean, the Sixers are making it harder for him, right? I mean, like they're trying their best to make it more difficult for him than it would normally be. But also like give Jalen Brunson a little bit of a break here because as you mentioned, he's played so many games and he's been so awesome this year and he makes his first All-Star game and some people had him fifth on their MVP ballot. He's been unbelievable and they wouldn't have gotten the 2 seed without him. So he has a couple cold shooting nights doesn't mean he's broken. It just means he had a couple cold shooting nights.
Yeah, for sure. And I see where is it? I got George A. Fajardo in the chat saying, relax on Brunson. He got us here. No doubt that he got us here. I'm not
Mhm.
even necessarily saying I'm not even necessarily like putting him down, but I think as a fan, you gotta be a little concerned because it's just 2 bad games in a row. And we thought he would have a successful game 2. Hopefully we see a game 3, but hey, we'll see what happens tomorrow. I'm looking forward to Thursday's night matchup in Philadelphia. I'm sure Philly fans are going to be rowdy, as you would already know, John, because they're looking to get back on track out there. Let me ask you this about, getting into game 3, right? Because
Okay.
now the pressure has to be immense for Philadelphia, especially,
Yeah.
it's not just the series being down in the hole, but also the history of the Sixers since Embiid has been there and trusting the process. Do you see this game as like outside of like a do you see this as like a make or break for the series right here? Like Sixers need to win in order for them to stay on track, or is it like they still have a lot of faith going forward?
No, I mean they're down 2-0, right? Like there's the old adage that a series doesn't start until the other team wins on the road. Well, if the other team, the Knicks in this case, went on the road, they're down 3-0, and then you got to win the next four straight. And sweeping the Knicks in four is, I'm going to imagine, like next to impossible, if not impossible. As it is, if the Sixers want to win this series, they got to win four of the next five, right? So they only have one more game that they can drop. I mean, generally, I try to stay away from hot takey stuff. Like we were talking about, me just like telling you the truth about what the actual basketball looks at right here. The the case is that like this is a must-win game for the Sixers. You drop 3-0. I mean, it's a wrap. You might as well be planning your vacation plans. And it sucks because early in the season, when Embiid, prior to the rules changes and Embiid getting hurt and all that stuff, and like that game where he dropped 70 against the Spurs,
Mm-hmm.
everybody in Philly was like, yo, this is a really fun season. Harden's gone. Maxi's taken a step forward. Embiid, if he's not going to win another MVP, he's going to be like runner up to Joker, but he was definitely in that conversation. And then the wheels come off again because he gets hurt again. And it sucks because he's gone through all these injuries and some combination of the basketball gods being incredibly fickle and Embiid's body failing him and just like sometimes things not breaking right, like the game two ending and all that stuff. It's a difficult franchise to follow for my entire life. It's basically like it's somebody asked me last night what it's like to root for the Sixers, and I was like, I wouldn't use that word. It's more like enduring the Sixers
Enduring the Sixers. Wow. Well, for Knicks, that's how it had to be. That's what it was for, some odd
forever.
2 decades. So, hey,
Yeah.
well, now we're back on track and we can at least say we're happy on this side. So, with tomorrow being a must-win game, outside of Embiid and Maxey, who've been stellar, who else are you looking for to step up for the Sixers?
Anybody who's around. Kelly Oubre had a good season. He's good defensively, going to need more offense from him. Nick Batum is, getting up there in age, but he had a really good end of the season and he's a super smart player. The problem is, like, are you really relying on him to, just can threes every game? It's a tough order, right? Like Kyle Lowry, they pick up on the buyout market, comes home to Philadelphia, North Philadelphia's own. Love to see him in a Sixers jersey. Always wanted to see that, but like he's limited now too, right? Because he's older. So they have
Hmm.
like a lot of different, and Tobias Harris like has been pretty much the bane of every Sixers fan's existence. He's going to be a free agent this offseason, and like, thank you, Tobias. He's as a human being, I've interviewed him a million times, even going back to when he was with the Clippers. He's the nicest guy on the planet, and I wish him well in Detroit or Orlando or wherever he ends up next year. He can't go soon enough. But one of those guys, and D'Anthony Melton, he comes back, who knows if they can get something out of him. One of those guys has to step up because just running the two-man game isn't working. You need somebody else to contribute something.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if I guess like has it been surprising that Oubre hasn't been able to like add anything, or do you think he's just so focused on just having to guard Brunson that he just can't get involved? Because I know Tobias had the hot start to begin this season, but Oubre was that guy who essentially filled in was the third consistent scoring option. Has that been a bit of a surprise for you this series?
A little bit. I mean, look, Oubre is what he is. Like they got him on a pretty cheap deal on a 1 year contract, and he has exceeded it by a million miles. Like they've gotten their money's worth times 10 out of Kelly Oubre. So I really don't have any like bone to pick with Kelly Oubre. It would be great if he also threw in some like even like a 50%, 60% Josh Hart offensive effort. Because his defense is good and he's long and he can harass you and he can frustrate you and he gives effort. So all of that has been good, but yeah, I mean, I just look at this team and I'm like, I don't know, like what are they doing offensively for any other extra minutes? And then, the on-off numbers for Embiid they were terrible in game one, and then they were survivable in game two. But like, how much this has been the story for the Sixers forever, right? Like, whoever the backup is for Embiid, you just kind of have to weather those minutes. Like, how much are you asking Paul Reed to do? Right? I mean, he's fine, but like you can only really play him 10 to 12 minutes in a playoff game. That's not going to sway the series. So it's got to be some combination of Oubre, Nick Batum, and I, sure, Tobias Harris.
And sure, Tobias Harris. Salute to Knicks Nation. Thank you all for tuning in for another game of the week preview. With me on the other side is my guy, John Gonzalez. You can go find him over at CBS Sports. Does a great job covering the league over there. And guys, remember, not only do you have to support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, make sure you use that promo code KFTV to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit, But we also got a watch party. We got the KFTV watch party at Sucker Punch, and we also got a watch party in Philadelphia. Let me just pull up and make sure I got the
Oh
address
no,
correct.
really?
Oh yeah, we got a
Oh
watch party in
no.
Philadelphia for Game 4. So if you want to go check it out for Game 4, let's see. Yeah, Game 4. It will be at the Winston on 461 North 3rd Street in Philadelphia this Sunday. CP will be there hosting it. So make sure to go over there. If you're going to be in Philadelphia for Game 4, don't worry, we got you covered. But for Game 3, Sucker Punch in New York City, you already know what it is. Make sure to go hang out with Knicks Nation over there and get it popping. All right. So asked you about the Sixers standpoint. I think from the Knicks standpoint, outside of just getting Brunson back and going, I just don't see what much there is to change for the Knicks. Like I think everything that they're doing has been working. It's just it comes down to who's going to show up that day as a role player. What, for example, you had Mitchell Robinson do a solid job against Embiid in Game 1. Hartenstein was the next man up in Game 2 at the 5 position. Dante didn't show up in Game 1, but really did show up in Game 2. Hart has been the most consistent guy on this
Yep.
team so far. And you got some clutch shooting from McBride and Boyan in Game 2,
Two.
but obviously they were on one in Game 1.
Yeah, in
So
game one.
yeah, and it's so for the Knicks, it's like who's going to show up. So at the end of the day, it's Brunson needs to get going, and then the Knicks just need to make sure that they can maintain the strong presence they have on the glass. That's it. On the offensive side and defensive side.
You just rattled off all those players, and I think you're absolutely right about it. Like the Knicks have two really good bigs that they can throw at the Sixers. It's a tough job, right? I mean, like
Mhm.
most teams end up using their main big against Embiid and using all six fouls, and you really have 12, which is super helpful. But can we just talk about the irony of you just rattled off all those players that the Knicks have available that could potentially be influential as role players to help Bowie, Jalen Brunson, right? The irony of Tom Thibodeau having extra players that he can use in a playoff series when his his main impulse would be to just play his starters. There's 48 minutes in a game. He would like to play all 5 52 minutes. Like the buzzer goes off and he'll just have them run laps.
Hey,
It's
Josh
just
Hart played 48
unbelievable that
last
he has
game.
that many players at his disposal.
It's insane. Like this is a very deep team. I mean, we haven't even had to go to Precious Achua yet, who was
Yeah,
solid
Precious
for
was
part.
great earlier.
Yeah, he was great for the Knicks after like a slow start for them. I mean, the team has a lot of talent, but as you said, Tom Thibodeau, I mean, he played Josh Hart 48 minutes in Game 2. I
It's
mean,
amazing.
and look, rightfully so. The man was just he has been so dominant. I mean, you can't
Yeah.
take Josh Hart, and there's been a whole discussion about putting Josh Hart on the bench and having Dante in there and really having more spacing versus than having Josh Hart. I'm like, I get the numbers, I get the analytics and everything that goes with that saying where you want to add more shooters to give Brunson a clear lane to get to the hoop, but what Josh Hart does is just the intangibles are just through the roof. The hustle, the
Mhm.
effort, his ability to rebound. Like without him, he's our best rebounder. Our shooting guard is our best rebounder. You cannot take your best rebounder off the court, especially when you're going against Joel Embiid, who's a walking double double in his sleep. So I just don't see how you can ask for Josh Hart to be off the court. And he's actually had the best outing against the Sixers this season. I mean, he was averaging 14 points, shooting 48% during the regular season, and still getting over 10 boards. I'm like, this guy can't leave the floor if you're just going by those numbers alone, what he did against them in the regular season.
He's crushing it. I mean, look, I've always been a fan, despite the fact that I went to a different Big Five city school. I've always been a fan of the three Villanova guys.
Mhm.
They're really good. I didn't think they'd be this good. Like I don't think anybody, maybe Knicks fans when they signed Jalen Brunson free agency, thought he was going to be this good. I don't know. I think somebody who says that is probably lying. I always liked his game, but he's gone to a superstar level. And I always like Josh Hart and Dante, but they've also like really ratcheted up their game this season. I mean, like all three of them are on career years, and they're a huge reason why you end up with the 2 seed, right? Like you got career years out of those three guys, and now you're off to the races.
Absolutely. And just those guys have just been so gritty for this team. And I think that's the one thing that, their journey to the Knicks, like they've always had to give 110% wherever they went. I mean, even reading that Players Tribune article by Jalen Brunson, who, he talked about on some teams he had to be the star, some teams he had to be the role player, and he's understood so many different roles. And I think going through that type of journey, you just see that translate onto the important. I'm sure that has been the same for Dante and Josh. I mean, we can just talk about their NBA careers where Dante with the Bucks got traded, went to Sacramento, didn't have a good outing there, had to go take the minimum to go be with Golden State, and honestly got the Knicks got him on a solid deal, and now he's 3-point leader for this franchise. Josh Hart, he got the extension the beginning of the season, had a slow start because it was just so muddy, but then you just think about all of his stops, whether it's the Lakers, New Orleans, Portland, and never being part of a playoff winning team. And now he's getting to show and shine what he's been through and showing how important and how valuable he is and how much of a winner he is. And so it's been great just to watch these guys develop. But John, we're coming to the end of the show. What are you thinking for this series in Philadelphia? You talk about game 3, game 4. What are your predictions? Do you think they split? Do you think Philly takes both of them? What do you believe the outcome will be?
Um, I'm really bad at predictions, but I will say that I think it's going to be more of what we saw in MSG, that the two teams are really well and evenly matched. I mean, hats off to the Knicks. They win those two games. Like I said, they close games. They've done it all season. They had to do it in that final regular season game against the Bulls. The Bulls, who really had no business playing all their starters, and you guys went to overtime, and it was two teams fighting it out. And then, now all of a sudden they draw Joel Embiid and the Sixers, and they're traditional rivals who haven't met in the playoffs since 1989, going at it head to head. Those two first games were outrageous games, super fun, super tough, super competitive. That's what I expect. I mean, look, I'd like to see the Sixers win too and make it an even series. Now we've got a best of 3 on the back end, and that would be really incredible. I don't know if it'll happen. I mean, I thought that the Sixers would have won at least one of the last 2 games, and they didn't. So, your guess is as good as mine, but I think it's going to be really tight, really closely contested because these teams are really evenly matched.
Yeah, I think it's going to be closely contested, as you said. I mean, these two teams have just been it's been a bloodbath, man. Like watching these games, like the physicality has just
Yeah.
been through the roof. Honestly, not even as a fan, as someone who just enjoys the NBA at large, this has
Yep.
by far been one of the best series outside of probably OKC and the Pelicans. And even if you watch the Lakers Nuggets game last night, how it came down to the wire, games that you want to see both teams just evenly matched because I feel like when it comes down to the crunch time, that really shows who's the better team. Just like when it comes down to execution, so that's what I enjoy at least from watching basketball. But I think it's going to be closely contested. Um, I don't know. I want the Knicks to win both as a fan, right? Just to
Oh
get the
God, if
sweep.
if you guys win both, you're never going to shut up. I mean, it's enough with your fan base. I know how Philly can be a lot, but you guys, if you dispatch the Sixers in 4 games, I think I have to quit and move to a different country. I can't watch basketball anymore. You're gonna end up ruining it for everybody.
Oh man. Well, it would probably be at the level of how the Eagles, I guess, won the Super Bowl, right? I mean, instead of us just demolishing the city, we'll be close to it.
It'll
Look,
be the
if the
end.
Knicks
Everybody
ever win a
that
championship, if the Knicks ever win a championship, God help this earth, all right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if the entire world could handle it.
Look, oh man, if the Sixers gets look, as I said to you, being from Philadelphia means mostly just enduring the sports teams, right? There's always abject disappointment in the end, but especially with the Sixers, where they find new and equally or increasingly painful ways to lose in the playoffs. If they have a first round sweep against the Knicks, their most bitter rival for forever, they'll not nobody in Philadelphia will ever cover. They're gonna have to send in the National Guard and shut down the city. It'll be awful.
Oh man, I don't think the National Guard will help. But we'll see let's see what happens, man. I'm just sticking to the series. Game 3 should be interesting.
If
I'm
that
looking forward to it,
happens,
especially with how much crying. I'm going to use the term crying between Nick Nurse and Joel Embiid talking about fouls and discrepancies and stuff of that nature because Maxey has been a professional about it. It's like, look, we just got to be
yes.
better. Like
I
I
just
appreciate that.
I want to say to you that despite the fact that you're a New York sports fan, a nice guy. If they do win the next 2, if the Knicks win the next 2, I'm blocking you.
Oh
I'm never
God, come
coming on the
on,
show
man. I thought we
again.
were friends. I thought we were
Don't
friends.
don't reach out. Lose my number. That'll be the end.
Sheesh. I thought we were friends, John. Jeez, it's gotten to
If
that level
if
now.
the Sixers win 1 game, we can continue this.
Oh, okay, cool, cool. That I see. I'll make sure.
All right.
I'll make sure to relay that. All right. Appreciate everyone for tuning in for another game of the week preview. John, thank you for coming through and helping me preview this game. Please let the listeners know where they can find you if you got any upcoming work.
Yeah, you can listen to us on our Beyond the Arc podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. We do a show Monday through Friday with Ashley Nicole Moss and our CBS Sports NBA insider, Bill Reiter. And you can also catch us periodically on CBS Sports Network, as well as CBS Sports HQ, which is our streaming network. We talk about basketball every single day, all night. We're always around. So you can find me at John Gonzalez on Twitter. Find Ashley, follow us, subscribe to the pod. We're going to be talking a lot of Knicks. A lot of Knicks.
There you go. Make sure to follow John. John does great work, man. John's been doing great work for a long time, so make sure to give him a follow on Twitter. Make sure to go support his work. Phenomenal journalist in the industry. And Knicks Nation, thank you for coming through again, tapping into another Game of the Week preview. You already know what to do. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Also, make sure to support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to a $100 match. And hey, remember, we got play-by-play tomorrow, so make sure to join JD tomorrow and follow his picks for game 3. It says game 4. What do we do? I think it's game 3. I think there's a typo with this one, not saying game 4. So make sure to tap in and follow JD for his. Sure, if you're going to want to join in the festivities, go to Sucker Punch tomorrow for game 3. Watch along. All right, Knicks Nation's going to be there. Make sure to join the party. You don't want to be, unless you got stuff to do, I get it, but you want to be where everyone's at, right? You don't want to have FOMO, be like, man, I should have gone to this watch party. Go to the watch party. Go to Sucker Punch. Go support KFTV. Go hang out with everybody. Enjoy the crowd for Game 3 when the Knicks are in Philly taking on the 76ers. And hey, if you're going to be in Philadelphia for Game 4, make sure to go check out the watch party over there. Once again, the watch party is at the Winston in Philadelphia, so make sure to go hit up CP over there. Go hang out with him before Game 4 starts, and you will be locked and ready to go tap in for another Knicks and Sixers matchup. All right, everyone. Thank you all for joining in. Make sure to follow John. We'll catch you later. Make sure to tap in tomorrow for play-by-play and post-game after Game 3. We out.
The lights get even brighter than you'd ever believe. It's game time. Is you built for this? These colors is forever infinite. Blowing orange everything.